The honey in your cupboard is hiding a disturbing secret. For thousands of years, honey was considered liquid gold, a medicine so powerful that Egyptian tombs contained 3,000-year-old honey that was still edible. In the Middle Ages, surgeons treated open wounds with honey and watched infections disappear that would have otherwise killed the patient. Monasteries built their entire medical practice on honey. Vikings took it on months-long sea voyages because it never spoiled. But today you buy a jar at the supermarket and your body reacts with blood sugar spikes, inflammation, and an immune system that doesn't understand why this sweet substance is attacking it instead of healing it. What changed? The honey itself. Modern honey is not honey anymore. It is an industrially processed sugar product that has been stripped of everything that made it medicinal. And what medieval beekeepers instinctively did right, we have completely destroyed in the name of efficiency and profit. Before we continue, write a comment. Do you regularly eat honey? Have you ever noticed that it makes you tired, gives you heartburn, or leaves you hungry afterwards? Let us know, because what you are about to learn will explain why your body reacts to modern honey as if it were poison. Section 1. What medieval honey actually was. Medieval honey was not just food, it was medicine. Every single jar. Why? Because medieval beekeepers did not know how to ruin it. When Paulus Agoneta, a 7th-century Byzantine physician, compiled his medical encyclopedia, he classified honey into categories. Cooked honey was an astringent used to stop bleeding. Raw honey was a wound-cleansing agent because it actively fought infection. Medieval doctors understood the difference between processed and unprocessed honey. They knew that heat destroyed honey's power. Medieval surgeons treating combat wounds followed a protocol. First, they used maggots to remove dead tissue. Then they applied raw honey to prevent infection. Modern forensic archaeologists studying medieval battle wounds found something shocking. Many of those wounds healed. Deep sword cuts, arrow injuries, crush wounds from medieval warfare. These wounds healed at rates that seem impossible without antibiotics. The scale of medical honey use was enormous. Pedro Alvares, a papal legate in Portugal, purchased 18,000 liters of honey for his household. That is not for baking bread. That volume indicates serious medical applications. Honey treated everything: wounds from combat, burns, respiratory infections, digestive problems, even speech development in children. Here is what you need to understand. Medieval honey retained all of its enzymes because it was never heated above hive temperature, that is 97 degrees Fahrenheit. It retained all of its pollen and propolis because it was only lightly strained through cloth. It retained its antibacterial properties because the enzyme glucose oxidase remained active. Every component worked together as medicine. Modern honey, dead. Enzymes destroyed, antioxidants depleted, pollen stripped out, and in 46% of cases in Europe, it is not even real honey. Section 2. The fraud you are paying for. In 2023, the European Commission published a study that should have caused riots. They tested 320 honey products from 20 countries, 147 samples, that is 46% were adulterated with fake sugars. These were not cheap knockoffs hidden in discount stores. These were branded products sitting on supermarket shelves labeled as pure honey. The adulterants: rice syrup, wheat syrup, corn syrup, cane sugar, mixed into real honey to bulk it out and increase profit. Here is why this fraud is almost undetectable. Rice syrup comes from a plant that uses the same photosynthetic pathway as flowers. This is called the C3 pathway. Traditional carbon isotope testing cannot tell the difference between natural honey sugars and rice syrup. The chemical signatures are identical. Fraudsters know this. They exploit it. The situation in America is worse. A 2018 Food Safety News investigation revealed that 76% of honey sold in U.S. supermarkets had been ultra-filtered. What does ultrafiltration remove? Pollen. All of it. Because pollen is honey's fingerprint. It tells you exactly where honey came from, Without pollen, honey becomes an anonymous amber liquid that could have come from anywhere. And when honey has no pollen, it is easier to hide adulteration. You cannot test what is not there. The FDA ran its own investigation. Between 21 and 2023, they collected 144 samples of imported honey. 14 samples, roughly 10%, contained undeclared sweeteners. But here is the critical point. That is only what they could detect with current testing methods. The FDA openly admits their tests only catch a subset of adulterants. The real number is much higher. Researchers at Cranfield University in the UK developed new detection methods. One uses laser analysis to identify fake honey without opening the jar. Another uses DNA barcoding to find plant material from corn and rice syrups. This DNA method can detect adulteration at 1% concentration. When they tested UK honey samples, they found fraud everywhere. But even if you manage to find real honey that has not been cut with syrup, even if it genuinely comes from bees, modern processing has destroyed what made it medicinal, and now we get to the truly disturbing part. Section 3. How industrial processing kills honey. The temperature inside a healthy beehive stays at 97 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the temperature where honey remains enzymatically active. Medieval beekeepers never heated honey. They extracted it, strained it through cloth, and stored it. That is all. Modern commercial honey is heated to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 71 degrees Celsius. Why? To kill yeasts that cause fermentation, to melt glucose crystals so honey stays liquid, to make it flow faster through industrial filters. But here is what that heat actually does. Honey contains 3 critical enzymes. First is invertase. This enzyme breaks down sucrose into glucose and fructose. At 160 degrees, invertase is 100% destroyed. A European research project called Tofuni tested this extensively. They found that pasteurization caused complete destruction of invertase activity. The second enzyme is glucose oxidase. This is the enzyme that gives honey its antibacterial power. When glucose oxidase acts on glucose, it produces hydrogen peroxide, not all at once but continuously over time. This creates a sterile environment where bacteria cannot survive. Studies show that heating honey to just 130 degrees for 15 minutes reduces glucose oxidase by 30%. At pasteurization temperatures, up to 98% destroyed. The third enzyme is diastase. It converts starches into sugars. Diastase is extremely heat-sensitive. When honey reaches 160 degrees for 15 minutes, diastase drops by 60% or more. Sometimes the reduction reaches 98%. Without these enzymes, honey loses what scientists call its antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, and antioxidant properties. One study compared raw honey with processed honey from the same source. The raw honey contained 4.3 times more antioxidants, more than 4 times the disease-fighting compounds lost to heat. Now comes ultrafiltration. Commercial honey is not just heated, it is forced through microscopic filters under pressure. This removes all bee pollen. Bee pollen contains at least 250 different substances, amino acids, B vitamins, minerals, enzymes, fatty acids. When pollen is removed, all of these are lost. But removing pollen does something worse. It erases honey's identity. Without pollen, there is no way to verify origin, no way to detect adulteration. Honey becomes a generic product that could have come from anywhere, been mixed with anything. The contrast is brutal. Medieval honey kept all its enzymes because it was never heated above 97 degrees. It kept all its pollen because it was only lightly strained. It kept its antibacterial properties because glucose oxidase stayed active. Modern processed honey, it is expensive sugar syrup, enzymes dead, antioxidants depleted, pollen gone, antibacterial properties minimal, and in 46% of European cases, not even real honey. You are not buying medicine, you are buying a lie. Section 4. What science proves about real honey. For decades, mainstream medicine dismissed honey as folk remedy nonsense. Then scientists actually tested it, and medieval physicians were right. A randomized controlled trial published in the Journal of Advanced Nursing tested medical-grade honey against conventional wound dressings. 105 patients with wounds healing by secondary intention participated. The median healing time in the honey group, 100 days. In the control group, 140 days. That is 40 days faster, a 28% improvement. Another study examined burn healing with honey. Burns treated with honey hydrogel were completely healed after 12 days, intact epidermis, proper tissue regeneration, complete epithelialization, meaning new skin fully covered the wound. Conventional burn treatments take significantly longer. Research on diabetic wounds showed even more dramatic results. Manuka honey applied topically achieved 80% wound contraction after just 9 days. In the honey group, complete epithelialization occurred 2 days earlier than controls. For diabetic patients who struggle with slow healing, this is revolutionary. But why does raw honey work? Modern research identified multiple mechanisms. First, continuous hydrogen peroxide production from glucose oxidase creates an antimicrobial environment. This peroxide is produced at low concentrations over time, killing bacteria without damaging human tissue. Second, honey's pH between 3.4 and 4.2 creates an acidic environment where harmful microorganisms cannot survive. Third, honey's high osmolarity literally pulls water out of bacterial cells through osmosis. Bacteria need water to survive. Honey starves them. Fourth, honey maintains a moist wound environment while preventing infection. This combination promotes faster tissue repair. Raw honey has demonstrated antibacterial activity against Staphylococcus aureus, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Escherichia coli, and Salmonella typhi. More importantly, it works against antibiotic-resistant strains including MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. This bacteria kills thousands annually and resists most antibiotics. What makes honey especially valuable? Bacteria cannot develop resistance to it. Antibiotics work through a single mechanism. Bacteria adapt through mutation. Honey works through multiple mechanisms simultaneously. High osmolarity, low pH, hydrogen peroxide, antimicrobial peptides, phenolic compounds. For bacteria to develop resistance, they would need to overcome all factors at once. This has never been observed. Studies confirmed honey's anti-inflammatory properties. Honey reduces inflammatory markers like tumor necrosis factor alpha. It decreases protease activity in wounds. Excessive protease destroys growth factors and proteins needed for healing. By controlling inflammation, honey removes healing obstacles. Research on antioxidants found that raw honey contains approximately 30 types of bioactive plant compounds called polyphenols. These neutralize free radicals. Darker honeys contain higher levels. One study found raw honey had up to 4 times more antioxidants than minimally processed honey from the same source. Honey's immune benefits are equally impressive. It stimulates leukocytes to release cytokines, initiating tissue repair. It stimulates B and T lymphocyte proliferation. It enhances phagocyte action, cells that destroy pathogens. It stimulates antibody production. Medical-grade honey is now used in hospitals worldwide. These products are raw honey sterilized through gamma irradiation instead of heat. This kills spores while preserving enzymes. But here is the problem. While hospitals use expensive medical-grade honey, you are buying fake or pasteurized honey with none of these properties. The disconnect between what science proves works and what you actually consume could not be greater. You think you are eating a healthy natural product, you are poisoning yourself slowly. Section 5. How your body reacts to the lie. When you eat medieval honey, your body recognizes it as medicine. The glucose oxidase produces hydrogen peroxide that kills bacteria in your mouth and throat. The flavonoids reduce inflammation. The propolis, bee resin present in traces, strengthens your immune system. Studies of medieval skeletons show significantly lower rates of cavities in populations that used honey as their main sweetener, compared to later populations that ate cane sugar. Honey was not just safe for teeth, it actively protected them. Modern honey? It behaves like table sugar. Rapid blood glucose spike, insulin surge, followed by a crash that leaves you hungry and tired. No antibacterial effect, no anti-inflammatory action, no enzymes. You are eating empty calories packaged as a natural product. And because modern honey is often contaminated with pesticides, herbicides, and antibiotics used in commercial beekeeping, you are stressing your liver and immune system. Tests found glyphosate residues in over 70% of commercial honey samples in Europe. Glyphosate, the herbicide that destroys your gut microbiome. You think you are eating healthy, you are being poisoned. There is another aspect almost never discussed. Medieval honey was local and seasonal. A German village had linden honey in June, forest honey in July, heather honey in August. Each honey tasted different, had different properties, different healing effects. Linden honey was calming, good for colds. Forest honey, darker and stronger, was used for digestive problems. Heather honey was antiseptic, applied to wounds. People knew their local honeys and what they were good for. Today, you buy a jar labeled Blossom Honey, a meaningless designation meaning honey from some flowers, somewhere in the world mixed from dozens of sources to create a standardized taste that marketing defined as pleasant. No connection to origin, no seasonal variation, no traditional knowledge, just an industrial uniform product. Science confirms this. A 2009 study by Technical University Dresden analyzed medieval honey recipes from monastery libraries and compared them with modern products. Medieval recipes described honey with over 300 identifiable aroma compounds. Modern supermarket honey, between 40 and 60. The difference is massive. These aroma compounds are not just flavor, they are bioactive molecules that interact with your taste receptors, digestive system, and immune system. Complex honey activates more receptors, sends more signals to your brain, and your body responds with coordinated digestive and immune responses. Simple honey is recognized as basic sugar. Your body treats it accordingly. Fast energy, no other benefits. Section 6. What you can do about it. If you want real honey, honey with healing power, you have options, but you must search consciously. Buy raw, cold-extracted honey directly from local beekeepers who keep their bees on wildflower meadows, not monocultures. Ask if the bees eat their own honey in winter or get sugar syrup. Ask if the honey was heated. Real raw honey crystallizes. If honey stays liquid for months, it was processed. Look for honey with pollen. Hold the jar up to light. If you see tiny particles, that is good. Those are pollen and wax residues, signs the honey was minimally filtered. Taste the honey. Real complex honey has layers of flavors, floral, resinous, sometimes slightly bitter or acidic. If it only tastes sweet, it is dead. Or go one step further. Become a beekeeper yourself. Medieval beekeeping is not complicated. A simple hive, a skep made of straw, or a wooden box costs little. You do not need courses or expensive equipment. Let the bees build how they want. Intervene minimally, harvest once a year in late summer, and take only what is left. Cut out the combs, let the honey drip at room temperature, store in jars, that is all. You might get 5 or 10 kilograms of honey per year. But that honey will be more potent than anything you can buy, and you will understand what we lost. The medieval farmer with his skep and his cloudy thick honey was not primitive. He produced a food so valuable it was used as currency, as medicine that healed wounds modern antibiotics cannot heal, as a preservative that could preserve meat, fruit, and even human tissue for centuries. Medieval texts describe how honey was used to preserve fallen warriors so their bodies could be transported home. Alexander the Great was allegedly embalmed in honey. That is the power of real honey. The modern honey industry traded all of that for profit, speed, and uniformity, and you pay the price in disease, inflammation, and an immune system that no longer knows what real food is. In 1403, Henry V survived an arrow through the skull because medieval surgeons knew how to use real honey. Today, that same wound treated with supermarket honey would kill you through infection. Not because medieval medicine was superior, but because modern industry destroyed what made honey work. 46% of European honey is fake. 76% of American honey has its pollen stripped out. And even genuine honey, if pasteurized and filtered, has lost the enzymatic activity that made it medicinal. Medieval physicians understood honey's power because they never heated it, never filtered it, never ruined it. They extracted it at room temperature, strained it through cloth, used it immediately, and it worked as medicine for thousands of years. Modern industry heats it to 160 degrees, destroys all enzymes, strips out all pollen, adulterates it with rice syrup, and sells you expensive sugar labeled as a natural product. You are not buying honey, you are buying a lie, and your body knows it. If this video changed how you think about honey, hit that subscribe button so you do not miss future videos where we uncover what ancient wisdom knew that modern industry destroyed. Drop a comment and tell me if you have access to real raw honey where you live or if everything in your stores is processed. Thanks for watching.